Now, in the words of Michael Keaton's Batman, you want to get nuts? Let's get nuts. Well, Kathleen Kennedy recently got even more nuts with what happened with Skeleton Crew as a series between herself and Pedro Pascal as Djarin, and we're going to be covering exactly what's coming to light with this overall Star Wars universe that's being handled on one end of the spectrum by Kathleen Kennedy with Skeleton Crew and the Acolyte series. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new and like this video to see future Star Wars updates. I'm also on Twitter at Mike01. I thank you all so very much for the great and kind support, and without wasting too much of your time, let's get right into the subject. Now, we've covered this a couple of times about what has been going on between Pedro and Kathy, where Pedro got fired by Kathleen Kennedy from Skeleton Crew as a couple of cameos for Djarin in the upcoming series that was going to focus on himself, saving the children, and fighting against Vane the pirate, who is going to be the new captain, so to speak, of the crew. Now, we know that there's a lot of things going on right now for Skeleton Crew. There's been a lot of delays and setbacks and problems that have been brewing, all because of Kathleen Kennedy and Jon Watts. Now, on top of the list, alright, we know that a lot of factors went into his firing for Pedro, ranging from demanding to remove his helmet that was actually denied, to the fact that Jon Watts wanted to add a lot of comedic value to the character and make him a Tony Stark-esque figure and to marvelize Djarin in Skeleton Crew, and it doesn't end there. So, with the recent developments involving all of this, what's really intriguing is that with the current drama happening between both Pedro and Kathy, more developments have been brewing involving Pascal's firing from Skeleton Crew as Djarin. Another major factor that played a large role into her firing from Skeleton Crew involved a full-fledged plan that Kathleen and Jon Watts had for Djarin that was going to explore new revelations about his backstory that were reportedly extremely damaging to the core of the character that Pedro Pascal did not agree with in the slightest, and was requesting for Watts and Kennedy to write that reveal out of the script, which was denied. The backstory had much to do with his parents and his own journey before his established self in the Mandalorian series that was going to completely change the perception of the character from the fans' point of view. Pedro was actually panicking over the sudden decision that Kennedy embraced for Skeleton Crew that eventually made them both fall into creative struggles. Now, let me just stop right here for a second. Now, we know that Pedro had a lot of problems with Kathleen Kennedy before Skeleton Crew, such as specifically for The Mandalorian Season 3, as well as even for Mando Season 2 in some parts, a lot of which had, yes, to do with wearing the helmet a lot, because it gets hot in there. He also wanted to have a lot of face time, and given that he wasn't really on set as much for Mando Season 3, we have a lot of things going on right now for his involvement from Mando Season 4, thankfully. So he is going to be coming back for John and Dave's take on the Mandoverse, but not on Kathleen Kennedy's side, given that Skeleton Crew, yes, is a Mandoverse project. It's not a High Republic series, just to let you guys know that. It does take place sometime after Mando Season 3, just not quite sure exactly where. Now, it doesn't end there, because it gets a little bit worse here, and it only gets worse for Kathleen Kennedy because it seems like she always makes the wrong decisions. And I don't know about you guys, but I'm starting to believe that she intentionally is trying to sabotage Star Wars for some kind of hidden motive or some kind of ulterior motive that we're not aware about. Who knows? There's something going on there as to why she's sabotaging or attempting to sabotage the franchise. Either it's that, or, you know, she's really out of touch with reality and doesn't even know what she's doing. I don't think it's the latter. I really do believe that she's starting to do this on purpose. I really do. But moving on, this is where things begin to get a little bit more complex here, is that on top of this, alright, along with Jon Watts, it was planned to be told via flashbacks, where the parents of Din did a terrible thing to him, however the specifics are not fully known at this time. On top of that, Kennedy did want to kill off Djarin in a ship explosion to sacrifice himself. This was confirmed not to be a fake out or anything like that, but rather a for sure death of Djarin as it turns out. Not a big surprise there, but what's also not surprising is how she was aiming to make Djarin's parents do something very bad to Din himself that Pedro really just disliked and thought it was just a horrible choice story-wise. Doesn't really surprise me. Look at how she had the uncle do a terrible thing to the nephew. Luke, aka, of course, going up against Ben Solo in the hut. You would have never imagined Luke Skywalker trying to slaughter his own nephew, or even thinking about it for a split second. The whole it passed like a fleeting shadow thing, we all remember that moment, right? So that's kind of similar to what she was trying to do with Din here. We just don't know the specifics about what the flashback was like, but it was said to be a Luke cross Ben Solo type moment that was very much like that for the Din Djarin and his parents moment, in a flashback, of course. Now again, it's not all that surprising coming from Kathleen Kennedy, because it's always about stripping down the characters that are well written or have been well established. So this, however, was axed quickly by Disney executives as far as his death goes, after they had conversations with her and convinced her, and even warned her over a big backlash coming. Right now, Kennedy is trying to get Pascal back on board of Skeleton Crew, and is even offering all of his requests of having full face time with no helmet this time around. However, Pedro is taking a stand, and he is refusing to return for Skeleton Crew. I don't know about you guys, I may not agree with everything about Pedro Pascal and what he talks about on social media, but I really do commend this guy for standing up to Kathleen Kennedy and just refusing to come back to Skeleton Crew and saying, yep, well, you had your chance, and that's that. And you know what? That's the best way to teach somebody a lesson, in my opinion. So now Kathleen Kennedy is trying to rework the last couple episodes of Skeleton Crew that was supposed to heavily feature Din Djarin's presence. So this either means two things. One, they're going to cut back on a lot of running time for some of the episodes, and two, they're going to have to either do some more reshoots, add more screen time, or running time, I should say, to some of those episodes that were supposed to involve Din Djarin. So that's the trouble that she's in right now. It's why we still don't have a release date for Skeleton Crew, let alone a release date window, alright? Even at Star Wars Celebration, they said, yeah, it's coming out in 2023, but we're not going to tell you when it's coming out. So, fortunately, one of the actors did say that expected to drop in November to December, which makes sense, because we got Ahsoka coming out in August, that's going to run into the fall. Then you're going to want a little bit of a break throughout October, and to kind of just, kind of build things up until November and or December. The holiday season, basically, is what Skeleton Crew is going to be. Unless they run into further problems and they delay it until 2024, I honestly would not be that surprised. I really would not be surprised at all, actually. Kind of like what happened with Bad Batch Season 2, that was supposed to come out in holiday of 2022, and it got pushed over until early 2023. So overall, guys, I would love to hear your take on this flashback moment that was supposed to be very near similar to how Luke actually betrayed his nephew Ben Solo. It was going to be something like that. Let me know what you guys have to say about all of this below in the comments, and if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel, and I will catch you guys next time.